Rest in peace to Steeziak living out here in L.A.
For real, bro. Is he still out there?
We good? Are we filming already? I was hoping you say action. Follow me to the kitchen. Yeah, it was funny because like. All right, today I made another slow cooked meal. Me and Dave had the honor of bringing to the table some barbecue pulled pork. It's been slow cooking for 10 hours, so it's gonna be really good. We had it slow cooking right here. We moved it to broil it to get that crust on top. Over here we got honey butter biscuits. We got a potato salad and a little bit of corn, just to get the whole barbecue feel going. Courtesy of Chef Dave and your boy Chef Nady. Let's go.
Smells like garlic. What's good, y'all? Welcome to TV Dinner, a dinner party that we throw with our friends, showcasing up-and-coming artists. This week, or this month, I should say, we are blessed to be joined by my bro, City James. What's good, bro?
My G. What's the deal?
Yeah, it's my dude right here.
What's the deal?
It's actually the first year we met. It's pretty crazy. Feels like way longer by
Exactly.
this point. The first time we linked up, I remember my boy Nady brought him through here, this same exact place we're shooting TV Dinner.
True.
And first session I ever saw City James, like, bro just went in, like, super raw. Just the content that he was spitting, like, we just started to beat. I didn't even know this guy, and just right after he laid his tracks down, I was like, yo, this dude's for real. So we hit him up. He came through over to our place. We had that one weekend where he just stayed over. We just cranked out like 6, 7 tracks. And from there, it was everything.
Yes.
It was everything.
Yes. I loved it.
It was good. Get off your phone, bro. What are you doing? Don't be like that. Put your phone away.
I'm here.
Do this? Cool. But anyways, that's a little intro. What's good, man? How you been?
I'm doing well. It's good to see everybody. It's been a minute since I've been able to like come to the Bel Air house and like really just chill and vibe. It feels like I'm always just like come and go, but it feels good to be here. So thank y'all for having me. Thank you, Tastebreakers and
Always.
Caregivers.
Always. You know, like I said, we all just met this year, but you recently put out a project with one of the fellow Caregivers. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, me and Nady met in December, right? Was it December or was it January? It was beginning of January for transition. RU has a yearly show called Transition out in Sacramento, and it is going to be in LA next year. So we met and we clicked it up because I had to drive with him up to Sacramento, and then it was me, him, and Suhalen and Mojo, and we just vibed, and then we were like, yo, let's link up. And then that week, we just started chilling, and then from there, we created this project that's called From This Point On. And what is it, 5 or 6 songs? 5? 6? 6 songs, and, you know, we just did it, and it was all off of vibe and energy and just love for the arts and support of one another, so it was pretty dope.
Great project. Y'all should check it out if you haven't already. Everyone in this room has, but anyone watching, if you haven't, from this point on, City James, all platforms.
Appreciate you.
Of course. So one interesting thing I learned about City James is actually he's pretty new to rapping. You were trying to pursue a different route before that. So why don't you give us a little bit about your background in terms of what you were doing before and what led you to this point of a different facet of your art, essentially.
I am a poet, an actor, and then a rapper. So I guess it's like an actor and a writer. I started acting because I went to this art school in Pomona, California, and so I majored in acting there, and then went to an art college and got my degree in acting. And then from that point, from high school and college, I was doing poetry and doing slam poetry. So I was competing internationally and did that for a while. Took a break from college and just traveled and went to London and throughout the U.S. performing and stuff, doing my poetry. Then went to college. clicked up with a couple people there, and we created this group called Urban Allure. And I was still the poet there, but my man Victor was the dancer and rapper, and it was like this multimedia collective where we just put on a couple dope shows. We had like Sold Out House of Blues, and we did other different things at this place called the Rosenthal Theater. We sold that one out, and then from that it kind of transitioned into me rapping off of inspiration from what he did, and my girl saying, "Yo, you should rap," and I did. So
Around when was this? Like, what was the timeline?
I graduated 2014. I didn't put out my first song until 2015. Didn't put out my first EP on SoundCloud until 2016. Like, yeah, really late 2016, and then just dropped from this point on in June. Right, June 23rd, I think it was.
It's pretty crazy to see your development as an artist, considering, you know, how short of a period of time it's been since you decided to commit to rapping specifically.
Yeah, because it's been around 2 years. 2 years since I put out my first song, which was 96. And it is crazy because to think that, you know, people usually find music or rapping and they start at 16, 17, maybe 15 or something like that, especially nowadays because everybody seems like the culture of hip hop is kind of going to the younger generation. But I just started 2 years ago, so I'm continuing to grow. But what's dope about that is that I know myself and I know the position that I want to have, as opposed to finding that through my music. I found it within myself, and now I'm letting that be the vehicle for my music to thrive.
Two-part question. What is that position that you see for yourself as an artist, and how has your poetry background helped that?
As an artist, I just want to be able to explain my experience and allow people to know that they're not alone or abandoned in whatever they're feeling or whatever they're going through. I'm not a person that is on just the side of consciousness or just the side of fuck shit. I'm like a blend of both because I've lived both, you know what I mean? And so I feel like I've lived this very well-rounded life where I've been able to see very very high points of my life and then also very low points of my life. And I think between that, I've created this middle ground where I'm now able to talk with a clear head and say it effectively enough because of my poetry. Because poetry isn't just about like writing the dopest line, but creating the best picture to explain your point. And in doing so with spoken word, the spoken word aspect where I was able to do that without a beat, and I just used my voice to talk and to tell this story. And that's the dopest part. The most struggling part about music was finding the rhythm, because there is no cadence or anything like that in poetry. You're able to just kind of just do this free form, and I had to get back into the rhythm of staying within this meter.
Which is pretty crazy to me because I feel like you have really good timing. Like, just from working with you, like, you know where your voice is supposed to fit within the pocket. You understand timing very well. Do you have any idea as to how you were able to kind of pick that up? You think it was more natural, you know, just kind of building off of you saying, you know, with poetry you didn't really have that experience. So what was it that gives you that great timing that you have?
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it makes it easy to work with you, bro.
I think my inexperience. You know, when you are taught this is right, this is wrong, then that's what you follow. But I don't know what the fuck I'm doing half of the time, so I'm able to just do whatever, and then it's like, oh well, this feels right. So, I mean, this year, I think just rocking with y'all, I started finally knowing what like a 16 bar cut was. I was always like, this feels like a 16, and you know, I was usually right, but I feel like music is always based off of feelings. So
for sure,
it's dope to know the rules and guidelines of things, but it was dope that I was able to just kind of fall into it and learn how to swim as opposed to being taught first.
Yeah, no, I could definitely relate to that. I definitely feel that because, you know, I started off as a DJ before I got into producing at all. So once I did start producing, and I was trying to figure out arrangement of tracks and how to kind of flesh the rest of a song out. Just kind of like you mentioned, I was going straight based off feeling. Like when I spin, I kind of feel like, okay, this is the moment that I should hit a transition, or this is the moment that I should start to switch things up.
Definitely.
So when I was producing, I kind of started to build that same anticipation. And I feel like that's also what has allowed me to get a little more creative with some arrangements. I ended up learning the rules, right, like you said. But once you learn the rules, you learn how to break them as well. And that's like the beautiful part about art.
That's what they're meant for.
That's what they're meant for, exactly. They're the guidelines that are meant to be bent. So, yeah, I feel you on that for sure. What do you see for City James moving forward? Like, what are some goals you have laid out for yourself? What do you see, like, project-wise coming out? Like, what's your vision? What type of impact you trying to have?
After I dropped from this point on, I was thinking like, all right, well, what am I going to do from this point on? Where am I going to see myself, and like, what is the kind of artist that I want to be? Because I'm not just a rapper, you know, and I'm not just a poet or a writer. Or just an actor. I'm all of those different things. And I really appreciate visual arts and multimedia. And so since that was the stuff that I was doing before, that's what I want to get back to. I want to utilize all of my talents and allow them to be focused on one narrative, and then create projects that are based off of that. So if I have a movie, then my album will be the soundtrack to that movie. And then if I write like a poetry book, it will be within the lines of that narrative from that movie, which is along the lines of that narrative for that soundtrack. And doing interactive performances, theater, all those different type of things, because my overall goal is to have an EGOT, which is the Emmy, the Grammy, the Oscar, and the Tony. So if I'm trying to compete with the people that are killing shit in just this realm, then I feel like I'm doing myself a disservice, because I'm not fully endowed within just rap. You know what I mean?
I feel that for sure.
And I've been battling with myself of being like, well, I got to keep up with these people who are dropping songs every week or shit every day sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
I think as long as I'm producing content at a pace that is good for me and that is fresh and kind of on the cutting edge, then I will be on the right side of history and legacy that I want to be on. So on my own terms.
Yeah, I can respect that, man, because I feel like definitely in today's day and age, it's really important to have an all-encompassing artistic project. You
Definitely.
There's a lot of noise out there, so it's even harder as an artist to differentiate yourself and separate yourself from, just being a rapper. Yeah. Or just for in our instance, just being producers. That's why we try to delve into these other creative projects to give people an insight into what we're trying to do and like the full message behind what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
So I can definitely respect that. I respect that you're trying to hit it from multiple fronts.
Yeah.
So final question here before we jump into the performance. Who you do it for, bro?
For a lot of people, man, I do it for myself. I do it for my daughter. She's somewhere running around over here, I think. She's helping in the kitchen, cooking. I do it for my family. What's going on? Oh, you want to just get in the camera? That's what that is, huh?
She loves the camera.
You want to say hi? I do it for my girl, who, like I said, who's the one that told me that I should start rapping.
Yeah.
And I just do it for the people that look like me that don't have the same opportunities that I might have had. Because though I've been through a lot, I feel like I've been very privileged to be able to go to college or to live into the age that I am now. Like a lot of people that look like me and that are from anywhere in America, a lot of times they don't get this opportunity. So I'm just doing it for the people that are silenced and want to kind of move forward from their state.
Does it for real reasons. That's why I fuck with you, bro.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. It's my boy, City James. Thank you so much for coming on, bro.
Of course.
It's a great pleasure having you. We're about to have...
I think this was my first interview as like a rapper, which is pretty dope.
Hey, there you go.
If I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong.
Yo, what an honor. I got to interview
Hello.
your first one. Hopefully
Hello.
It was comfortable enough. We're about to have a dope-ass performance from this dude. Perhaps a sneak peek from a Tastebreakers City James collab coming up, too.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. It's not perhaps. It's happening. So stay tuned. Here we go. TV dinner. City James. Thank you again, man.
Yeah.